Earlier in the week, we covered how Haiti's self-appointed interim Prime Minister Claude Joseph, who stepped into that position following the assassination of President Jovenal Moise, agreed to step down and was replaced by Ariel Henry. We also interviewed The Intercept's Ryan Devereaux on new information suggesting the assassins received U.S. training. If you missed that interview, here's a quick bite.
If you look at this period of time in which the U.S. government tells us that these 7 Colombians were trained by the United States, it's 2001 to 2015. This decade and a half long period is when Plan Colombia, this massive counter-drug, counter-narcotics aid package, went into effect. It's a period in which the United States spent $10 billion fighting the drug war in Colombia, which, we called it the drug war, but it was really wrapped up in a much more complex sort of counterinsurgency conflict. Over that period of time, Colombians, the Colombian military was sort of working hand in glove with the United States, with some of the most elite elements of the U.S. military and intelligence apparatus.
While the U.S. declined Haiti's unusual request to send troops to the country to help secure key infrastructure following Moise's assassination, what do the voters think about the issue? We have new Hill-HarrisX data on the matter. Let's take a look.
What's your reaction, Mr. President, to the Haitian president being assassinated?
We need a lot more information, but it's very worrisome about the state of Haiti.
Does the U.S. have a role in keeping justice? Mr. President, these cyber attacks keep happening. At what point does the United States respond and take action?
What's your message on cyber? Any message after your briefing on cyber?
At what point does the United States respond?
The survey found an overwhelming majority of voters want the U.S. to stay out of what's happening in Haiti at 75%. Among the 25% who said they do want the U.S. to get involved, 49% said we should send both investigators and military assistance. 26% said to send only military assistance, and 25% said to send humanitarian assistance only. Ryan, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it shows that when it comes to foreign policy, we're not remotely a democracy. Like the question of whether or not the U.S. Should get involved in Haiti is kind of laughable. Like the U.S. is involved in Haiti. The U.S. has been involved in Haiti, for 200 years. Yet the American public has no interest in the U.S. being involved in Haiti.
At least in this context, to send relief that was requested after the assassination.
Yeah, if I think you can.
I think it's probably true more generally.
I think you could probably draw out the implication from this overwhelming answer that if asked at any point in time, should the U.S. be particularly militarily involved in Haiti, the answer would be no. Now, if you ran a survey after an earthquake, and the question was should there be humanitarian assistance, then overwhelmingly people would say yes. Absolutely there should be. But right, it shows there's not a whole lot of reckoning with what the U.S. role has been with some of these client states over the years.
And in this case, I think laughable is exactly right. I don't actually think anybody, even in the national security establishment, or the blob, as people call it, actually was really serious about doing anything militarily, as was requested.
But we don't need to. Like Ariel Henry is in after the United States wanted a change in prime minister and got it. But what do we call that?
Yeah, but still different. Of
Haiti
course.
doesn't tell us to change our leadership.
It's still different, of course, than actually sending physical troops, which, thank God, there is no. Even as I was saying in the blob, there's no appetite for that right now because they're reading the tea leaves, and the 75% number I think would be pretty much what people would predict because it's gotten to the point where the public is so exhausted with this interventionism that I think the 75% number, even as it is in this specific context, it's so high that I do think it really speaks to that exhaustion overall.
Yeah, and another implication of this is around immigration. If the United States designates a country as going through a particularly unstable and unsafe period, then immigrants from that country are given temporary protected status here in the United States. And it doesn't seem to me that there can be any question whether or not it's an extremely unsafe place to be right now. Just check the State Department's guidance for whether or not you can travel there. They recommend being careful of what contacts are in your cell phone. Like once you're at that level of State Department guidance, it seems that the only logical step could be, well, Haiti needs basically indefinite TPS protection, and one obligation I would say that we have to the country is at least to allow people to seek and receive status here.
We talked to my Federalist colleague, John Daniel Davidson, this week, who'd just gotten back from a trip to the border. I mean, fairly recently, within the last couple of months, where he spoke to a law enforcement officer who discussed in Del Rio, Texas, the horrible, tragic case of a Haitian woman who had attempted to cross the border into America. She was pregnant. She died trying to swim across the Rio
and
Grande.
why make people go through that? Just let people apply and let them come.
And the point is, it's going to get worse with instability. As instability increases, there needs to be solutions to ensure that we have a humane policy for people making those trips out of desperation.
Right, and at some point, I think, because liberals don't do enough to focus on the how dangerous
the inhumanity
that trip is.
The cartels who benefit from it.
But at the same time, conservatives don't either, in the sense that there's no way to stop it. Like, you can build a wall, that's not going to do it. So to me, we have airports, we have airplanes. If people need to come over here and apply for status, let them fly here. Let them have temporary status while they apply for it.
It's absolutely true that you're not going to stop it with a wall. It's absolutely true that this is going to happen no matter what, because the situation is so desperate, sadly, for so many people. And on that note, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching What America's Thinking. We'll see you next time.